You know, power is a fascinating thing. It can be loud, explosive, literally shaking the ground you stand on. But it can also be totally silent, like a perfectly planned chess game where the final move was decided ages ago, long before anyone even saw the checkmate coming. So today we're going to dive into both, looking at two completely different, but when you get down to it, fundamentally similar stories about how power really works.
On one side, you've got this direct, incredibly high-stakes military fight between two regional giants. And on the other, a quiet, calculated political maneuver to sideline a leader. One's a war of explosions and interceptions, the other is a war of appearances and, well, strategic goodbyes. And by putting them right next to each other, we can start to see the hidden machinery of power really whirring away.
All right, first up, let's head straight to the Middle East. We're jumping into a conflict that's just wrapped in this thick fog of claims and counterclaims. We're trying to figure out what's actually true becomes a battle all on its own.
So this was the headline that just exploded across the region. Iranian media went big, declaring this massive success. They claimed their brand new, super powerful Khoramshahr-4 missile, and this thing carries a 1-ton warhead, had struck the very heart of Israel, literally shaking buildings in Tel Aviv.
But you know it is, right? In any conflict, the first reports are almost never the full picture. Underneath those explosive headlines, a very different story was starting to unfold. So let's break down what each side is claiming happened. And this is where the information battle gets really clear. You have Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps, the IRGC, claiming direct hits on huge Israeli targets and even attacks on American troops over in Bahrain. But then you have Israel and the US painting a completely different picture. They're saying, whoa, hold on, our advanced Arrow and Iron Dome systems took out most of that incoming fire. And they fired back with claims of their own successful strikes hitting Iran's underground missile bases. And this is the key, right? We are deep in a classic fog of war where shaping the perception of who's winning is just as important as what's actually happening on the ground.
And the cost? The cost of this shadow war is just staggering. According to the Center for Strategic and International Studies, the price tag for the U.S. just to defend against these attacks, get this, in the first 100 hours alone, hit $3.7 billion. To put that into perspective, that's nearly $900 million a day. Just incredible.
Now, despite that insane price tag, the Pentagon is basically saying, hey, our strategy's working. They've put out data showing a massive drop in attacks since things really escalated, a 90% reduction in ballistic missile attacks, and an 83% drop in drone attacks. So from their perspective, this is a win. It's a sign they're successfully wearing down Iran's ability to attack.
But, a win in this kind of fight is never clean. The cost isn't just about money. At least 6 U.S. soldiers have been killed. And at the same time, leading Iran's IRGC has got to be one of the most dangerous jobs on the planet. The new commander, Ahmad Vahidi, is stepping into a role where his last 3 predecessors were all killed in either U.S. or Israeli strikes. It's a literal crown of thorns. And his organization is already warning of painful shocks to come, even as Israel is facing accusations of hitting civilian sites.
And that brings us to this, well, frankly, this killing statement from Israel's army chief. The message couldn't be clearer. This is nowhere near over. Both sides are promising more escalation, more surprises. It's just an incredibly tense, volatile situation.
Okay, now let's do a complete 180. We are shifting arenas entirely. We're leaving the hot war of missiles and diving into a cold, calculated political chess match in the Indian state of Bihar. And while the methods couldn't possibly be more different, you'll see the ultimate goal is exactly the same, taking a rival off the board. At the heart of this whole story is a political strategy we can call the long goodbye. And this isn't some sudden coup. No. It's a slow, patient, very public removal of a powerful leader, in this case, Chief Minister Nitish Kumar. And it's done with such precision that it almost looks like a voluntary retirement.
This timeline really shows it wasn't just one thing, but a whole series of deliberate steps. So after he rejoins the BJP-led coalition, Nitish Kumar is systematically, kind of quietly, distanced from the media. During the national elections, yeah, he campaigned, but he gave 0 press conferences, 0 interviews. Then came the big signal. He was totally absent from Prime Minister Modi's huge campaign roadshow in his own capital city. And the final step? A nomination to the Rajya Sabha, the upper house of parliament, a very dignified but very clear exit from state power. Now, to really get how unique this is, all you have to do is look at what the exact same political party, the BJP, did in another state. Over in Maharashtra, they engineered this swift, brutal takedown of the government, splitting the ruling party basically overnight. So why the totally different approach? Well, the Bihar method was all about patience, because it had to be. With a long-time, powerful ally like Nitish Kumar, the goal was to absorb his power while making sure you didn't create a huge backlash from his very crucial base of voters.
You can actually break their strategy down into 4 pretty clear steps. It's kind of like a political playbook. First, you embrace your rival. You form an alliance to get access to their supporters. Second, you isolate them. You slowly cut them off from the press and the public stage. Third, you elevate them. Give them a prestigious way out that looks more like a promotion. And finally, you consolidate. You swoop in and take over the power they've just left behind. It's like a form of political jujitsu, using their own weight against them.
But what does this feel like for the people on the ground? Well, this slow-motion maneuver just created a ton of confusion and, honestly, a real sense of betrayal. This quote from one of Nitish Kumar's own party supporters really says it all. You can hear this desperate plea for some kind of clarity, this feeling that their leader has been silenced, and they're just forced to watch a play they have no power to stop.
So where does this leave us? We've looked at 2 totally different scenarios. One was all about overt, explosive conflict, and the other was about covert political maneuvering. But when you really pull back, you realize they're both about the exact same thing, the acquisition and the consolidation of power.
And that leaves us with one last big question. From the skies over Tel Aviv to the political backrooms of Patna, we're seeing power in action. But where does real victory actually lie? Is it in the missile that hits its target? Or is it in the silent, patient strategy that makes sure your opponent just fades away? Which form of power in the end is actually more